to have a successful research agenda, one of the things you're going to need is money. You're going to need money to support yourself to buy groceries and things like that. You're going to need money to buy supplies and books and software and things of that nature. And at a lot of schools, you're not going to have like endless, bottomless wells of cash from which you can draw, or we can just say, look, I need everything, and they'll take care of it. Sometimes you're actually going to have to apply for money to support your summer research, to support different research projects and things like that. So I want to talk about a couple of different areas of research funding. The first is, in much the same way that you learn to write well by writing a lot poorly, you learn to write a good research proposal by writing a lot of bad research proposals, or you learn to write a good funding proposal by writing a lot of bad funding proposals. Again, there are a lot of people out there who are just able to nail it on the first try. You're probably not the target audience for this, quite honestly, if that's you, because in thinking about the various funding proposals that I put in at my institution, the number that have been rejected, I'm pretty sure is higher than the number that's been approved. I know my summer research grant proposals have been rejected. I know after my first year, second year, third year at Rhodes, and then my fourth year was initially rejected, and then it was finally approved after one of the people that I think they approved left the college, and then my proposal for last year was approved. So then I've applied for teaching grants and things like that have again been rejected, but I've been able to find external support by participating in programs sponsored by the American Institute for Economic Research, programs sponsored by IHS. The Hayek Fund for Scholars that IHS has is great. It's absolutely wonderful. It was a source of support for me during I think it was my first year or two at Rhodes. I know definitely when I was in graduate school, I was supported by the Hayek Fund for a couple of different things. But getting research funding is it's almost like submitting journal articles. You're going to spend a lot of time dealing with rejection. You're going to spend a lot of time reviewing and revising what you're doing, and a lot of time thinking about how you can improve. So realize that you're going to deal with rejection, and you're going to deal with rejection a lot when you're applying for research funding. Another thing to do might be to find ways to be creative about using startup money. If you have startup money from your institution, or if you have a fund for teaching and research supplies in your department or something like that, these can possibly be sources of funding for books, funding for papers, funding for travel, funding for other things. The IHS can definitely help you find people who can support your work. That's one of the hats that I'm wearing now for IHS as an adjunct program officer, is finding ways to connect students and finding ways to connect faculty members with people who might want to support their work. So definitely be a big part of the IHS network and be entrepreneurial and alert about finding ways to get funding or finding ways to get support for what you're doing. Look for serendipity or exploit it as much as you can. I got a great opportunity several years ago with the American Institute for Economic Research when I just happened to run into some people at a conference. A friend of mine who was talking to someone from AIER that he'd done some work with, and I ended up being invited to participate in one of their programs, and now they've supported some of my work. Another thing to do is to look for possibly offbeat sources of funding on campus. I know when I was at Washington University in St. Louis, the Center for New Institutional Social Sciences supported some of my work. And incidentally, I was actually rejected when I applied for the CNIS program the first time around. After my second year of grad school, I was rejected. I was approved when I applied for it my third year, and they helped to fund some of my work when I was in grad school. Since I've been at Rhodes, I was actually supported a project that Chris Coyne and I have done on the Memphis riot of 1866 and a handful of related things. This project has actually been supported by the Curb Institute for Music at Rhodes. And so you'll periodically see these announcements, calls for funding from these various little pockets of money or these centers or institutes at different institutions that are supporting things. And I thought, what they want to do is ultimately explain and understand Memphis and how Memphis came to be the birthplace of rock and roll. So they wanted to support pretty much anything having to do with scholarship on Memphis specifically. So I wrote a proposal and said, I would like you to support this project. And I met with one of the people who made the decisions. They supported the project, and the project has been relatively successful so far. So there are a lot of different ways to think about getting research funding. If you're trying to do things for which you're going to need 5- and 6-figure grants, I'll be honest, I'm not the person to ask about that, and I don't really know that I can help you. But if you need a couple of dollars here and there, or a couple of $100 here and there to pay for equipment, to pay for books, to pay for travel, things like that, you can probably find it at your institution by being very creative, by being alert, by being entrepreneurial, and also by making sure that you're in contact with people in your social network, people in your academic network, people in your personal network, and people in your professional network.